Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is Congresswoman Paulina Luna. She is a rising, influential conservative voice in the U.S. House of Representatives. She is known for her unapologetic style and her bold agenda. She has emerged as a firebrand, a fighter, and a reformer. First elected in 2022, she quickly gained national attention by sponsoring the resolution to censure Congressman Adam Schiff, which passed the House. In 2025, she was appointed to lead the House Oversight Task Force focused on the declassifying of the federal documents regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King. We are very proud to have her with us today. Congresswoman, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Hey, Roger. Thank you so much for having me on.
You announced just days ago that you were sponsoring the American Privacy Restoration Act to fully repeal the Patriot Act and end the surveillance state and restore the Fourth Amendment for U.S. citizens. I think this is one of the boldest and most courageous actions I have seen. I think we both recognize the horrific abuses that have resulted from the Patriot Act. First of all, they told us it was temporary, that it would be used to keep Islamic terrorists and others who would do us harm in check, but the Congress has routinely rubber-stamped them, and it has been used as an excuse for warrantless surveillance of Americans. It also authorizes indefinite secret detention of American citizens. Tell us about your legislation.
Yeah, so I'm actually really glad that you brought that up, because a lot of people, when this initially came out, and by people I mean, far leftists, I really honestly think they're bots, Roger. They're trying to say that everything that you just stated was a conspiracy theory, and the fact is it's not, okay? What the Patriot Act did was it basically used the terrible events of 9/11, and it took the American people's civil liberties and freedom. And so where in previous Congresses, I think a lot of people were afraid to touch this sacred cow, the Patriot Act. This Congress, because of such slim majorities, and then also to, I believe, a changing in the actual demographic of members of Congress, not only have we had both Democrats and Republicans co-sponsor the repeal of the Patriot Act, but people are willing to have the conversations. This also goes into Section 702 in FISA, and what I can tell you is, if the American people don't realize by now that they can't just blindly trust their government, I don't know what else will wake them up. But what I can tell you, Roger, is with everything that happened to President Trump and to the American people during the 2020 election cycle and onward, where we really saw what was happening with the collaboration of the intelligence agencies, social media, and then, as you know, the FBI labeling American domestic terrorists if they were going to church, if they didn't agree with abortion, whatever it might have been. That is exactly what I am saying is wrong, and the reason why we do need to repeal and, frankly, get rid of the Patriot Act is because it enables government too much. And, frankly, we have all the winds in our sail right now with President Trump and the appointees, but there's always new administrations that come in, and so now is the time to act and to correct the wrongs of the past.
I could not agree more. I think this is very bold on your part and a true act of leadership. I'm curious to know your view on Real ID. I have concerns about Real ID. I understand this, again, passed initially in the wake of 9/11. And it sounds great when you say, well, we're going to use this government-issued ID, which you will need to board an airplane, by the way. to ensure that those who aren't eligible to vote don't vote, and those who shouldn't be eligible to get Social Security benefits don't get them. That sounds great, but the government, to me, they always overreach, and I fear the building of a biometric database on every American and eventually moving towards social credit scores. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you must, but I think we could have the same kind of abuses we've had under the Patriot Act under the Real ID program. What say you?
Yeah, I actually had sent a letter prior to its implementation on the 7th of May to Christy Nome at DHS asking for them to delay the implementation. Not just that, I mean, I outlined in the letter my same privacy concerns. And again, this goes into people, again, blindly trust government, but look at what's happened in the past. And if you don't think that that's not possible, just look at what China's been doing. And I really do believe what happened with some of the draconian measures during COVID-19 was kind of a test bed on how far they could push and how much people would push back with the overreach of big government. And if this doesn't tick you off, a lot of the policies that came out even with COVID, Congress was exempt from, where the American people were forced to comply. So again, you'll see these carve-outs for members or people that are in positions of power, while the general population has to adhere and conform. And so, yes, I do have the same obvious privacy concerns there. I would also say, too, this kind of branches out into some of the things that Snowden actually had addressed. And so, look, they do use these types of bills, whether it's the Patriot Act, whether it's FISA Section 702, to dragnet and collect on the American people under the current Patriot Act. You can go to an internet provider or a cell phone provider. They can provide a warrant. They won't even have to notify you that you are under observation or they're collecting on you. And you can look even into what happened during January 6th, where they dragnetted people's cell phones, where people even just in the vicinity of the Capitol actually were, knocked on by the FBI. And so these are, again, why we are trying to reform the way that we are.
Lest anyone think that Congresswoman Luna is just a knee-jerk conservative, she championed a bipartisan effort to allow proxy voting for new parents in Congress, securing enough support to at least force a vote on the House floor, despite opposition from her own party. This initiative led to her resignation from the House Freedom Caucus, citing a breakdown in mutual respect and as a matter of principle. Congresswoman Luna is a conservative with a heart. I want to turn to the massive job of the oversight involving President Trump's historic order that the National Archives make public all of the classified data regarding the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King. I have said and written from the beginning that while I applaud the president's efforts, that I thought that perhaps his order was too narrowly drawn, and that there were deep state actors still in the government, in the Central Intelligence Agency and the other intelligence agencies and other branches of the government, who would hold back data. And in fact, the proof of this is the fact that, the House Select Committee on Assassinations in the late 70s conducted an extensive investigation. Their final report insisted that organized crime played a very extensive role in President Kennedy's assassination, yet none of the documents we've seen thus far document that. It seems to me we need to find the Carlos Marcello audio recordings from the Camtex sting operation, which are currently sealed. I believe they're in control of the 5th Judicial Circuit in New Orleans, for example. But you have been dogged in seeking those things that are obviously missing. Most importantly, the NBC video. NBC also has the Walter Sheridan films. Walter Sheridan was an investigator who worked for Senator Robert Kennedy. We're very interested in what his final report shows. And then, in addition, I wish that Caroline Kennedy would release the Manchester audio interviews with her mother, Jacqueline Kennedy, would give us some idea of who Jackie Kennedy thought murdered her husband. She has, unfortunately, not done that. I know you have some very revelatory hearings coming up. Tell us what we can expect next week.
Yeah, so next week we actually have some incredible witnesses. We have Abraham Bolden, who was actually a former Secret Service agent in Chicago. And he was actually most notably recently pardoned by Biden, and I believe that he was set up based on the information that he had presented that potentially had implicated that the Secret Service either knowingly or intentionally mishandled the security of the president in Chicago, which would have allowed for initial assassination attempt. A lot of people don't know that before President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, he was also in Chicago and in Tampa, actually. And there's some very suspect things happening there. We also have Dan Hardway, Judge Tunheim, Dr. Don Curtis, and then someone that you had referenced, Doug Horne. So these are all incredible witnesses. A lot of people have asked me, why do you care so much about Kennedy? Well, first and foremost, exactly what you said, Roger. You do have this aspect of the intelligence agency and community. Just because we have new appointees in a new administration does not mean that they will try to stonewall or refuse handing over information. And as of right now, actually, we have 5 documents still outstanding, one notably being the Joe Nedes file that actually both Tulsi Gabbard and the CIA, or at least our friends at the CIA, are trying to track down. They have notified me to the listeners for them to be aware that they have located 4 of the 5 documents that will be released in the coming weeks. But the point is that we also have been made aware of a whistleblower, Roger, at the CIA who actually found information that they are saying the CIA is not turning over. And so we've notified ODNI and are seeing what protections we can get in place for this whistleblower, as they're afraid, again, of, changing political tides, that, they might be okay now, but will they be charged with maybe, for example, espionage under a different administration if they come forward? So we're working through all that right now. But I do believe in the testimony that you will hear from these witnesses. Not only are they going to confirm a lot of what the American people had initially suspected, that the CIA, yes, did hide information. We actually have documentation of that now in some of these records that were released under President Trump's executive order. But also, too, there was actually some of the witnesses that are testifying today, they were silenced and stonewalled by the Warren Commission. Not to mention, they actually had the CIA, who Joe Nedes actually was in part stonewalling some of the investigations of Congress, and you'll hear that in the testimony as well. Not to mention, we also have Dr. Don Curtis, who actually operated on Kennedy in Dallas. And many people forget when he initially was at that first hospital that they found an entry wound in his neck. Now, remember, the Warren Commission said that he was hit with a magic bullet and hit from behind. I, again, believe there are 2 shooters, and you'll hear that in the testimony of Dr. Don Curtis. And it's important to note that these are people that were actually at the event. The left tried to say that when I presented that argument that there was more than one shooter, they tried to say that I was pushing a conspiracy theory. That is not a conspiracy theory. A lot of what you have addressed, a lot of the information currently out there today confirms that not just the mob, but I do believe there was a rogue section of the CIA that was responsible for the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and I'm not the only one. After all of the evidence has come out, people who have been there, investigators, people that worked on the Assassination Review Board, on the House Select Committee on Assassinations, all hold the same opinion. And so how do we prevent it from happening again? You know what happened with President Trump, not just once, but twice. We really haven't heard much about those assassination attempts, have we? But you have to make sure that history reflects historical accuracy, and that's exactly why this task force has been stood up. It will be one of the last hearings on John F. Kennedy in Congress, and we will also be presenting a report to the American people of these final findings and all this information for the people to review and interpret for themselves.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Congresswoman Paulina Luna, and we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold, and it's 100% tax-free.
Janine Pirro here with an urgent warning. While we celebrate Trump's historic win, inflation continues to drain your IRA and 401k. And China is now targeting your money with a kill shot on the dollar. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold and contacting the experts at Colonial Metals Group. For a free 2024 gold guide that explains everything, go to freegoldguide.com/Pirro, Pirro, or call 800-965-8004. Don't let America's enemies ruin this victory and steal your retirement money. The experts at Colonial Metals Group are the only folks that I trust to bulletproof your wealth in gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Pirro or call 800-965-8004, 800-965-8004 for a free 2024 gold guide to learn how you can protect your life's work and if you can qualify for a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver now. freegoldguide.com/Pirro.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at Ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back. We're talking to Congresswoman Paulina Luna, who heads the House Task Force on the declassification of the JFK assassination records. Before the break, Congresswoman Luna said that she believed, and she's correct about this, that President Kennedy was shot by multiple shooters and shot from both the front and the back. I would point out that Paramount recently released a documentary in which they interviewed numerous doctors, surprising how many of them, I think as many as 9 doctors who attended President Kennedy at Parkland Hospital. Every one of them said they saw wounds in the president consistent with his being shot from the front and the back, and that the wound in his throat was not an exit wound, but was an entry wound. A tracheotomy was quickly performed, so by the time his body got to Bethesda Medical Center, it was impossible to say. So I think you are on the right trail. I also, as we discussed last week, if we could obtain the Nix film, that's the 8mm film by Orville Nix, an air conditioning repairman who was down on Dealey Plaza that day with a zoom lens, I think there's a high probability that that film, which the Assassination Records Review Board did look at, would prove that both of us are right. You raised another question, Congresswoman, I want to go back to. I saw your colleague, Congressman Stube from Florida, say that as a member of the Intelligence Committee, he's gotten no additional information regarding the 2 assassination attempts on President Donald Trump. I find this extraordinarily hard to believe. We are expected to believe that Thomas Matthew Crooks, alone nut, acting alone, does this sound familiar? Shot and could have killed our president. The Secret Service, the state police, the local police knew there was a man with a gun inside the perimeter of the president's event. He was seen with a rangefinder as well as a weapon for 92 minutes, but nobody informed the president's direct security detail, and he was not evacuated as would have been required by the Secret Service manual, among other things. Are you satisfied with what we're being told about these attempts, Congresswoman, and what should be done about it?
No, not at all. And in fact, when I was questioning on oversight the former Secret Service director who ended up resigning after that entire questioning of House oversight just because she knew she messed up. But she actually lied to us on the witness stand when she was up there, and we had actually found reporting from her own Secret Service agents that had stated that they were not at the actual briefing with the other local law enforcement. And so, lapsed in detail, I believe that area was left open. There was a ladder. There was so much wrong with that. But then also, too, when you look at the investigation, no one goes from being a nobody, right, to all of a sudden being trained and being able to sniper. He had the perfect location. I will also say that it was interesting that he had the gaming profiles that he did, because that's typically a way, if they don't want to be tracked, that they can communicate Not to mention there was also reports of there being burner phones as well. And yet you heard nothing about it. And remember, whenever the intelligence agencies and communities want to leak something, they'll leak it right away. So the fact that all of a sudden everyone was quiet about this and no one talks about it anymore, it's obviously scary. But he wasn't the only one, right? There was that other nut job that also tried to assassinate President Trump. So I believe that with those reports, I would hope, and I do believe that President Trump is probably internally following up. And I hope that he releases that information for the American people because I think it's important for them to know. But, you know, I would say, Roger, if you've ever watched one of those shows like Forensic Files, you see that people will kill people for, you know, several $1,000s. So if you think that they won't try to kill someone over the control of the greatest country in the world and the greatest superpower in the world, you would be sadly mistaken. And we're just glad that he's in and that he's safe. But that was a very close call. And I believe that it was honestly the hand of God that kept him alive. I genuinely believe that. I
completely believe in that. He wears the armor of God. How coincidental that they hosed out the back of JFK's limousine within an hour of his being killed. And just as they hosed down the roof of the building from which they tell us Thomas Matthew Crooks shot, as if they didn't want us to be able to check his DNA. The same intelligence services that tell us that they can't break into his encrypted phone. They don't know who else he was communicating. It boggles the mind, and history appears to me to be repeating itself. I sleep better tonight knowing that you are in the Congress and that you are going to ask these hard questions, and I salute you for the hard work and the open mind in which you are seeking the truth regarding the assassination of President John Kennedy. We haven't even gotten to Robert Kennedy yet, but what they've released there still doesn't comport with the facts as we know them. And I suspect we'll have the same problem when we get to the documents regarding Dr. King's murder as well. I want to thank you very much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show. And where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on my official accounts at Rep Luna or my personal at Real Anna Paulina.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Roger Stone Show. This has been a great interview.
Thanks, Roger.
All right, folks, that is it for us. I want to thank you for tuning in to The Roger Stone Show, where every Sunday we try to bring you a mix of politics, history, news, style, food, you name it. We're happy to have you on board. Until next time, God bless you and Godspeed, and God bless America.